Okay, we'll start with this. Now, we've talked about Matchroom's recent signing of the WBA's super featherweight champion, Hyun-Mi Choi, and what their plan of action might be moving forward given this recent revelation. We've talked about that from the Matchroom UK side of things, but what about the US side of things? What about Michaela Mayer, the WBO champion at this weight? What effect could this signing have on her? We know how Michaela has been spending her time on social media as of late, actively, adamantly calling out Terry Harper. And she continues to put that Maeva Hamadouche proposition on the back burner. Maeva Hamadouche is open to having a fight with Michaela, but Michaela...
She's more focused on Terry.
The truth is, Michaela Mayer's constant call-outs of Terry Harper are a good build-up for what is to be their fight sometime down the line. This is what it takes to build it, to gain the fight traction, gain it momentum, and more importantly, gain it attention, as Michaela has become the super featherweight division's heel. To some, the super featherweight division's bad guy, as it were. And that build-up, it is necessary to gain the fight and the fighter's exposure. Believe me when I tell you, if these girls was running around being a little bit too professional, a little bit too polite, licking each other's asses, giving each other compliments, it wouldn't have the same effect that it could have if the fighters are rivals and they're not playing nice, they're not being polite. It takes great rivalries to make super fights, and that's what Mayer versus Harper could be. So Michaela's constant callouts are not in vain. They are necessary. However, callouts aside and Barb's traded aside, Michaela's going to need to find a dance partner. Cause, for the time being, Terry Harper's busy. She's going to defend her title this weekend against Katharina Sanders. And in early 2021, we don't know that Eddie Hearn might not have her unify with either Maeva Hamadouche or Hyun-Mi Choi. There has to be a reason that Eddie chose to sign Hyun-Mi, because in order to make a fight with Hyun-Mi, he didn't have to sign her to do that, but he did. So there's something else going on here. It's possible that Terry Harper in early 2021, provided that she's successful this weekend, could end up unifying with Hyun-Mi Choi. Who's to say that can't happen?
They signed her for a reason.
Perhaps early 2021 is too soon to put Terry in there with a world champion like Maeva Hamadouche, who is the apex predator of this division. Perhaps early 2021 is too soon for that fight, but not too soon for a Hyun-Mi Choi unification match. That could be the angle. That could be what we're looking at. It's possible that Terry unifies with Hyun-Mi Choi early 2021. And in the interim, what does Michaela Mayer do? Who does Michaela Mayer fight? Alicia Baumgartner's out, at least for now, because Alicia, she just had surgery to her knee.
Michaela can't fight her.
She keep calling Terry Harper out till she's blue in the face. She keep doing that till the cows come home. But at the end of the day, Terry Harper is not going to be Michaela Mayer's next fight. She's got to find a dance partner. I'll say it's not looking like Natasha Jonas is going to get that Harper rematch anytime soon. I mean, it's possible that she doesn't. And if she doesn't, why doesn't Michaela Mayer lock horns with Natasha Jonas? It's a credible, proven opponent who has given Terry Harper the hardest fight of her career. If in early 2021, the Jonas versus Harper rematch doesn't take place, if Natasha is free, Natasha Jonas would be the ideal candidate for Michaela Mayer to keep busy with. A common opponent with Terry. That scenario, however, it does hinge on Natasha Jonas being free. We don't know that she will be. We don't know that she won't be. But if she is, Michaela should see about fighting her. If Natasha's not free, who else is out there that Michaela Mayer can make a statement against? I'll tell you who. Delphine Persoon. That's right. Did you guys forget that post-fight after the Katie Taylor rematch, Delphine said she was moving down in weight. She said she was going to go down to super featherweight. If Michaela Mayer wants to shake shit up and make a statement, why not take on Delphine Persoon? You gotta understand something. Michaela Mayer is a talented fighter. Anybody can see that. But she ain't got the resume that Terry Harper has. On Terry Harper's resume, you've got Vivian Obanoff, you've got Eva Wahlstrom. Very soon you could have Katharina Sanders. Natasha Jonas is in there, and even though she drew with Natasha, she's still there.
Still counts.
I think Michaela's a talented fighter, I do, but she ain't got a resume like Terry. And she can keep calling her out in the in-between time, in the interim. She can keep doing that to build up what could be their fight. But in the in-between time, in the interim, Michaela needs dance partners, credible dance partners, and Delphine Persoon could be one of them. We saw what Delphine Persoon looked like in the Katie Taylor fights. We saw what Delphine Persoon did to Christina Leonardo too, and Erica Farias, among others. We know what Delphine Persoon is capable of. That's the kind of fighter that Michaela's got to take on moving forward. You see about fighting a Natasha Jonas. You see about fighting a Delphine Persoon. Down the line, once she's all healed up, you look into that Alicia Baumgartner fight. The super featherweight division has no shortage of talented girls in it. It's not like those ghost divisions up there at 160 and 168 or 175. There's ample talent to go around and ample fights to make. And now that Michaela is a defending world champion, the competition has got to get a little bit more interesting. She can call Terry out. She can call her out all day. She can call her out on Twitter, on Instagram, on Facebook, whatever social media platform is to her heart's desire. But in the in-between time, in the interim, Michaela Mayer and Top Rank have got to do more to secure credible dance partners. In other news, per tweet from Michael Benson, Terrence Crawford's relationship with Top Rank is reportedly strained, and Crawford's attorney sent a letter to Top Rank airing grievances, including frustration at not having a big money breakthrough fight. It's claimed the contract expires in October, get this, 2021. Per a tweet from Mike Kopinger, Top Rank explored a Manny Pacquiao Terrence Crawford ESPN pay-per-view fight in Qatar this month that eventually fell apart. Pacquiao agreed to $23.5 million guaranteed. Sources tell The Athletic. Now, there are certain inferences you can make as to what this report entails. That Manny Pacquiao's relationship with the PBC might actually be over. If he was entertaining these kinds of offers from Top Rank, that would then have to mean that his commitment to the PBC is now over.
It's done.
This must have been the fight that Terrence Crawford was talking about when he said that, things fell apart with Manny, so he told Todd Duboff and Bob Arum, to see about getting Keith Thurman. This report is in keeping with those comments, those statements that they did see about trying to get Manny Pacquiao in the ring. Though in truth, in spite of those reports that were circulating, I never looked at that as a fight that was a realistic fight. I never looked at that as a fight that was going to happen, and you know what? It didn't happen, because based on what reports were floating around about Manny, Mikey Garcia seemed like a more likely choice for Manny than Terrence. And beyond that Mikey Garcia fight, there are all those talks about a Conor McGregor crossover fight. In all likelihood, if Manny returns, if he comes back, those are the guys he's going to keep busy with.
Not Terrence Crawford.
It's a great pity that the relationship between Terrence Crawford and Top Rank has become strained, because anyone could understand Terrence's frustration in this situation, that he needs big-name opponents. He needs to fight the top-tier, top-shelf guys in this division, but Top Rank can't give that to him. They cannot provide him with what he wants, what he needs. In turn, is that really Top Rank's fault? If the guys on the other side of the street aren't willing to work with you,
Right.
if the guys on the other side of the street reject your offers and price themselves out of fights, what can Top Rank do in that situation?
Yeah.
When a guy like Keith Thurman, who's not a world champion, is coming off a loss and a year of inactivity, when a guy like that has the fucking audacity to ask you for $10 million guaranteed, what are you supposed to do? Give it to him?
During a pandemic, no less.
When there's no live audience, no live gate, no ticket sales, you're supposed to cough up $10 million for this fucking guy?
Fucking ludicrous.
You can acknowledge that Top Rank in this situation, they can't give Terrence Crawford what he wants. You can acknowledge that, make light of it, but that doesn't make it all their fault now, does it? It takes two to tango. It takes two guys to make a fight and only one to fuck it all up. If these reports check out, there is still roughly 11 months left in Terrence Crawford's Top Rank contract. He's set to be in action tomorrow night against Kell Brook. He's favored to win that fight, but beyond that, what does he do? In the upcoming 11 months left, Terrence Crawford's Top Rank contract, who can they get for this guy to fight? What can these guys do in the next 11 months to keep Terrence Crawford on their side of things? Do they even want him to stay on their side of things, given how frustrating it's been to find him opponents? It's not like he can move up to 154 and seek refuge from the politics at 147. At 154, it's the same goddamn fucking thing. At 154, PBC's already got a hold of 3 of the 4 major titles at the weight. So in this situation, what can Top Rank do if they want to do anything? If you want my opinion, and you're here, so I'll assume that you do, I don't think Top Rank failed Terrence Crawford. I understand where he's coming from. I understand his frustrations, that he wants certain fights that right now seem elusive. But I don't think that's Top Rank's fault. And I don't think the Top Rank failed Terrence Crawford. I think boxing failed Terrence Crawford. Boxing's politics, its political boundary lines, and its fragmented infrastructure. That's what failed Terrence Crawford. You think that top-ranked fighters are the only ones struggling to get PBC guys in the ring? What happened between Demetrius Andrade and Jermall Charlo?
What happened?
What just happened with Canelo Alvarez and Caleb Plant?
What happened?
When Jarrell Miller tested positive for all those performance-enhancing drugs ahead of the Anthony Joshua fight, why didn't Luis Ortiz or Adam Kovnowski, 2 PBC guys, why didn't they step up? Why didn't they take the fight? Why didn't Wilder take the fight? It's not just Top Rank struggling to corner PBC fighters. It's not just Top Rank struggling to get those guys in the ring. It's pretty much everybody. You think it's a goddamn coincidence that Teofimo Lopez comes along, calls out Vasyl Lomachenko, and ends up fighting him before Gervonta Davis? Gervonta Davis, who had 3 fucking years to try to do what Teofimo just did.
Pretty much.
This is a fucking pattern. But Terrence Crawford doesn't have the luxury of options that some other fighters in some other weight classes have, and can't seek refuge by moving up in weight because he would find himself in the exact same situation at 154 that he's currently in at 147, except up there, he'd be up there with lesser-known fighters in a lesser-watched division than the welterweight division. So he's stuck between a rock and a hard place, and I understand his frustrations, but we can't put this all on Top Rank. That would be a very linear and narrow-minded way of putting things. Ultimately, he might end up leaving Top Rank, because I don't know what they can do for him in the next 11 months to keep him on their side of the street. The situation may not change in 11 months. And if it doesn't, Terrence Crawford might take his business, his skills, and his talent elsewhere. He might go over there to the PBC side of things. I don't rule it out. Now on to a bit of news that broke earlier this week that I didn't get the chance to react to. Virgil Ortiz posted this via his Instagram, and it reads, "Excited to announce that I'm now signed to MTK Global and manager Rick Mirrigan. I've heard many great things about both parties, and I'm looking forward to working with both. The future is looking bright." And in truth, this story deals with similar elements and similar themes to the previous story we just talked about. Terrence Crawford's campaign in the welterweight division and how it's not going the way he'd want it to due to the political boundary lines that divide the weight class. In spite of Virgil Ortiz inking this pact with MTK Global that manages all kinds of fighters all around the world, male and female, they've got network ties all over the place. In spite of this recent signing, this recent partnership, I should say, Virgil Ortiz faces the same problem that Terrence Crawford does. You know, Virgil Ortiz called out anybody, from Danny Garcia to Keith Thurman to Errol Spence Jr. For what it's worth, Virgil has already amassed a pretty impressive resume for a prospect, because that's what he is. He's not a contender, not just yet. He's a prospect, and he's racked up some very notoriable wins as far as prospects go. Went over Brad Solomon, Javier Orozco, Samuel Vargas, Mauricio Herrera, and he's stopping these guys. He's stopping these seasoned veterans. Virgil's a guy who's called out anybody from Danny Garcia, Keith Thurman, to Errol Spence Jr., and in spite of these call-outs, I think he's going to have about as much luck landing fights with those PBC fighters as Terrence Crawford has had so far. If they won't give Terrence Crawford the time of day, Terrence Crawford, who is an unbeaten champion, consensus pound-for-pound fighter, pound-for-pound top 10 fighter at least, if that guy can't get the time of day from those fucking guys, do you think Virgil's gonna get it?
You think he's gonna have more luck than Crawford?
There's even less reason, even less incentive to give Virgil the time of day than there is to give Terrence Crawford the time of day. And that's the situation. That's what I'm talking about. That if Terrence Crawford's campaign at 147 isn't going the way that he wants it to, it's not all on top rank, you understand, because a different fighter that's with a different outfit that fights on a different platform is experiencing the same thing. Virgil Ortiz is a Golden Boy Promotions fighter. He fights on his own, and he's in the same situation as Terrence Crawford, and he's going to be when he eventually moves up to 154, as that is no refuge from the politics of boxing either. At 154, the PBC's pretty much got the run of the place. You know, Virgil Ortiz. He's of generous dimensions as far as welterweights go, and he's a young guy, so his body is still growing. Moving up to the junior middleweight division is an eventuality for Virgil Ortiz. But if and when he goes up there, if the PBC's still got the run of the place, he's going to get frozen out of all the action. The way that Terrence Crawford is getting frozen out of all the action. 147. And what are we going to say if and when that happens? That it's all Golden Boy Promotions' fault? That they didn't do enough for this guy? Or is this just another example of the PBC's island policy? And what effect that has on other fighters that are with other outfits that are out there? It's not limited to what's happening with Crawford at 147. It's not just him. I want to say that Virgil signing to MTK Global was a good move. They manage a lot of fighters all around the world, so he's in good company, and hopefully they can put him in a power position to work around these politics and still have interesting fights with interesting fighters. So as far as the signing, it's a great signing and it's a good move for both aforementioned parties. But the politics of boxing are going to affect Virgil the same way they're affecting Terrence Crawford. It's no different, even though those two guys fight for different outfits on different platforms. I don't know that Virgil Ortiz can get a world title opportunity, can get a title shot in the welterweight division. His best bet would have to be going the IBF route, and even in that route, still miles to go, miles to travel. The bottom line is, Terrence Crawford ain't the only one suffering from the politics of boxing. He's not.